Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Justin's Sci-Fi Talk, formerly known as Justin's Galactic Science Fiction and Entertainment Talk Show. And this summer is the summer of Star Trek because it is the 50th anniversary of Star Trek. And we're going to be focusing the next 2 or 3 podcasts on Star Trek-related themes. And we're very lucky to have a very special guest today. He's someone who I've known for just over 20 years. He's Tim Hudak. He's the Member of Provincial Parliament for Niagara West Glanbrook. Tim has had a very varied career. He has served as a cabinet minister in the administrations of Premier Mike Harris and Premier Ernie Eves. He has also served as leader of the Progressive Conservative Party and as a former leader of the opposition. And I believe currently you're the financial institutions critic for the party.
There you go.
Tim,
yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. And we are very lucky today because Tim happens to be a huge Star Trek fan. Yeah, I can. You're just coming in with a bit of a time delay. That's all. Okay. Yeah. For those who are watching, it looks like we've got a bit of a time delay, so if you can just be patient with us, we'll get through this. But in any event, Tim is a huge sci-fi fan, specifically with Star Trek, and he's agreed to talk to us about his insights on Star Trek and leadership. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to participate in this discussion than Tim. So, Tim, first of all, when did you first develop an interest in Star Trek?
I mean, I'm a guy who grew up in the 1970s. So I'm coming from Fort Erie, right across border from Buffalo, New York. I used to watch it on the UHF station, Channel 29, out of Buffalo, New York. So I suspect it was in the early reruns. Star Trek run was 67, 70. So it was probably the first reruns on Channel 29. And I loved it. And I remember, so the early toys I had, I should have kept them.
Yeah.
66, there you go, to the 50-year anniversary. So some of the early toys I had were the Star Trek figurines. And I had a really cool Enterprise set. And he's impressed my friends because we must have been pretty young, where the transporter would spin around and you hit the button and the guy would disappear. Now he's in the back of the transporter, but we were so young. I thought, well, oh my God, the transporter works. So ever since I can remember.
Okay, that's good. Great. Yeah, it sounds like me. I started watching. Okay, that's good. Great. Yeah, it sounds like me. I started watching it at age 9 myself, and like you, I caught the reruns on UHF. Yeah. Yeah, I remember. And hang on a second here. Now, I'm just going to ask you some basic questions here. Do you have a favorite captain?
Yeah, and, I think my favorite captain's still the original. Now, I don't know. There's probably. Yeah, James T. Kirk and the Shatner version of Kirk. Although I like the new movies, I think they're really good. I'm really excited about the third one coming out. But I guess, Justin, when I think about it, Kirk was my favorite because that was the original, and so that's always plays a place in our heart. I like the fact that he's Canadian. I've never met William Shatner, but I really like him. And then remember he was on Boston Legal for a while. Exactly. Yeah. And so to me, that's
Denny Crane
was really
I loved him.
He's acting as Denny Crane. That's probably what he's really like. So I always like Shatner, and I think because he's the original. Plus, you always, I think, want to in a fictitious character experience what it's like from somebody's eyes who's not you. And so Kirk, just because he was more rambunctious, more aggressive style leader, a lot of fun to watch.
Sure. Okay, that's very interesting. Yeah, because I mean, it's incredible now, like the way the series has expanded. I mean, you've got at least 5 captains now, and with this anthology coming out next year, you could be having even more. So, but no, that's a great answer. Now, do you have a favorite series and a favorite movie?
That's the character. There's so much to it. When you look back, it was so far ahead of its time. As well, in terms of the themes that it took on and how it paralleled events that were actually happening in the 60s and 70s. You just think, Justin, like I remember seeing, oh my God, a communicator is such a cool thing, or a tricorder. Heck, we've all got our own now that are more powerful than a communicator tricorder into one. So I just think that's wild that they anticipated these things and they talked about in a sci-fi way, very big issues in the late 1960s as well, around race, around the Cold War. So I would say the original series followed by The Next Generation. Oh, and favorite movie?
Yes.
Was it, make sure I get the title right, the one where he had to face off with the Shakespeare quoting Klingon? Was that Undiscovered Country? I thought that was my favorite.
Oh, yes, The Undiscovered Country, Part 6. Okay, yeah, Wrath of Khan is my favorite, but I do like 6 as well. That was a very well done one. Yeah. I noticed none of the next gen is rated too high.
The original Star Trek was when I was a kid. I liked science fiction. I had the toys.
Yeah.
I even had a Scotty shirt. Scotty was my favorite character originally. So I had a Scotty shirt back in the day as well. And then Next Generation came on when I was doing my undergrad at University of Western Ontario. And some of my roommates were also big Star Trek fans. We were the same age, same era. So we would get together when the first Next Generation started to play, cook up our dinners or a little barbecue or takeout food and watch Next Gen. So I liked the series. I liked how it grew and matured, but it also is a nice memory from me of a different era among good friends and how exciting it was to have a new Star Trek series.
Well, it's similar with me because I started getting into the Next Gen. Like prior to the Next Gen, I was just exclusively original series like you, and I got kind of hooked into it more when I was in my last year of high school, and more so when I started my first couple of years at Brock University. And I found it was a very good bonding experience. And you're right, the franchise as a whole just did start to mature a little more, and they had some great storylines and characters in their own rights. And stuff. My personal favorite series out of all of them is Deep Space Nine. I like that because it was, I thought it was the most realistic one out of all of them. And I liked it because there was a lot of analogy, historical and political and religious
mysticism
as
stuff
well.
Just didn't appeal as much to me in Deep Space Nine. I liked it better near the end when basically the massive warfare was happening. I just found that far more. Yeah, exactly. That's when I got into it more.
Oh, the Dominion War, yeah.
They're not even close. Like, there's number one, the original series, followed by Next Generation. The other ones don't even touch them. I only give out a gold and silver.
Okay. It's all right. So, no, fair enough. I mean, everyone has their own preferences for TV series. And that's what I like about the franchise.
And it's very experience too, right?
So much.
Last night I was at a friend's place, and his son is really into Star Wars. So he just loved the new Star Wars movie that came out, and I was like, it was basically the old Star Wars, just with some new faces, and there was nothing new. So, but it'll always be memorable for him, just like the original Star Trek series was for me. So I think that plays a big role too, as to what time of life we follow it.
This is true. Yeah, this is very true. Because I'm looking forward to this new series they're having. I guess they're going to be creating an anthology series. Which is basically they're going to take a different theme and focus on for one season, and they move to a completely different theme
thing with an ongoing crew for 4 or 5 seasons in a row.
Yeah,
it'd be pretty hard to be original because you already got other ones that have done that. But if you do the anthology like True Detective and you do one storyline, then a bunch, I think that's a really cool concept. And aren't they doing a lot of that filming here in Ontario too? Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, they are shooting it in Toronto, as a matter of fact, and also the most recent movie, Star Trek Beyond. Most of that was shot in British Columbia. It's the first time they've shot most of it outside of California.
Anthology series, and we can finally the extras.
Okay, hey man, okay.
We're a red shirt.
All right, I will do my best to make that happen.
Oh, some background Klingon, whatever. Let's try
Okay. Yeah, or die in a transporter accident or something. You never know. I mean, I don't know if I want to go on as a red shirt or something. Maybe just put me in a gold or a red uniform. I'll just walk by and maybe wave to the captain or the hot lieutenant, female, of course, and yeah. But no, that would be a lot of fun.
That'd be fantastic.
So I take you'd be willing to do a cameo if you ever have the chance.
It'd be fun.
Yeah. Oh, it would. It would. I mean, that would certainly be hot on my bucket list for certain. Now, let's talk a little bit about leadership. What were some of the leadership traits that you found that were admirable, like not just in the captains, but in some of the other really characters from any of the series or movies as well?
The first thing I thought of when you started asking me this question was I said earlier that Kirk was my favorite captain and why he was my favorite captain. But I think the one, for leadership position I most like is Picard. I just think my time as leader of the PC party or as an MPP, I like Picard's style, and I was closer to that. So, what I liked that was different with Picard than Kirk is you get a senior team in the ready room, and you go around the table, get all of their opinions on, what should be done to get out of whatever dilemma they're facing that episode, and then he would make a decision, and he would tell his team to execute. So that was an approach that I've always followed with senior advisors around, and I think he put a bit more trust into his team to execute the plan. Kirk was more gut level, and he was more do it myself. Picard was more of a delegator.
Yeah, and that's right. And if he did consult with anyone, it was usually just
exactly. But we disagree.
Spock or McCoy. Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Well, I mean, it's good. Precisely. I think you've said you don't want to surround yourself with yes people.
I from a leadership point of view, and I like that style, and that's the kind of style that I try to use myself when I'm in a difficult decision. And then who else did I like in terms of the way they approached leadership issues? I also like, as I said earlier, Scotty a lot, because he was very demanding on himself, on his team. He always played that game where he would lower expectations and over-deliver. He was a master at that pretty well every episode, right? And Scotty was also fiercely loyal. What was that one episode where Scotty was on a planet with a recreation team? They're on a recreation leave, and they got in a big bar fight, I think with a bunch of Klingons. Exactly. Trouble with Tribbles.
The Trouble
was asking why they got into the fight. And at one point, they said, well, they were running you down, so they're talking badly about you, Captain. Oh, so that's why you got in a fight? No, sir. They called the Enterprise a garbage cow. That's when he decided that was enough. So Scott was fiercely loyal to his team, but he was also fiercely loyal to his ship. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. No, that's it. No, that's very interesting, because when we talk about leaders in Star Trek, we often think of the top people, and there are all kinds of other individuals on there who I think are potential leaders and who are growing as leaders.
Sulu climbed the ladder, right? He climbed the ladder throughout the movie series, and I guess LaForge did as well.
Yes, he did, and so did Worf. He climbed through in both Next Gen and Deep Space Nine, and Spock even got to be captain at one point. So that was
but Scotty, just like the way
there was some advancement for some of them.
Delivered, and just the way they got the job done, they ran a neat ship.
Okay. No, that's So, I've always liked Scotty. Being Irish, he's a fellow Celt, so we always stick together. And yes, James Doohan was Canadian, but and it was interesting the way they chose when he was casted. They asked him to determine which nationality his character would be. And they settled on Scott in part because he was very good at putting on Scottish accents, but also because Doohan had done some research, and he found that some of the most important engineers of note in human history were engineers.
Totally.
Yeah, so I thought that was a very good homage or homage. Yeah. No, it's interesting how they come up with these
but there's never
ideas for characters and whatnot. It's Canadian. There was one Canadian, as a matter of fact. I don't know if you recall Michael.
No. His character is Canadian.
Yes, his character was Canadian. He was talking to Sisko about if in the storage bays in Deep Space Nine they still had his items, because there was his lucky loony. Yeah, it is. Yeah, he had. Well, I don't know if that was the best example of a Canadian you could have on there, because he also did turn traitor to the Maquis and stuff as well. But no, they did actually show a Canadian on there, and they do make periodic references to Canada every now and then. I know that there's been a move actually for a long time to actually have one of the ships named USS Pearson for Lester B. Pearson. Yes, they would accordingly make it an ambassador class one because of his role as a diplomat and helping to found the United Nations and also winning the Nobel Peace Prize.
Anthology
series. I think that would be very fitting.
Have it in that.
Exactly. Yeah, but no, it's just interesting. Yeah, how Canadians do manage to get in there, or Canadiana gets in one way or another. So it's. Now, what lessons have you learned about leadership from Star Trek, and do you feel that there are other lessons that people could learn as well?
Whenever Romulan met with me, didn't trust a word that they had to say.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that. As I said earlier on about Picard's style, I think that's a lesson learned about having people with their authority and give their points of view, and then you as leader have to make the ultimate decision. There's a lot about loyalty, and the loyalty not only to the captain and the ship or to the Federation, but the loyalty the captains had to their individual officers and crewmates. I mean, that's a theme that goes throughout Star Trek, how the captain will sacrifice himself or herself for the team. Quite often you'd see Kirk take risks, right, to save everybody else, or the duality you see between the original series and the reboot, where Spock then Kirk sacrificed themselves for the the good of the whole, right? The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and that whole play. So decision-making mechanisms and the loyalty I see as dominant themes, as well as I think an optimism, a sense of goodness and of principle, and always their conflicts with the Prime Directive, how you approach a different species. They would generally, or almost universally, take a higher view, and the principles win out. I think it's part of Roddenberry's original vision of Star Trek, and they've been consistent in that as well.
Yeah, no, that's very good. It is interesting to see how often they were sorely tested, like in all the series, by the Prime Directive. Well, I guess with the exception of Enterprise, because one hadn't existed at that point in time, so they were really playing in the dark there. But yeah, and I do like your point about loyalty as well. Like I've been involved in leadership roles in other organizations, and it's true. You do have to promote loyalty amongst your teammates and your colleagues, and you do have to give a certain amount of loyalty and I think trust as well. And you have to empower them.
Picard did very well, and the loyalty is you can't just command the loyalty. You have to demonstrate that you're loyal to your team as well.
Exactly, you have to earn that loyalty as well. And that's how I've seen, like in some organizations, some leaders have taken it for granted, and they just expect everyone to obey and follow them blindly because we're the leader, and that's that. It's not everything has always worked out as well as a result. So. Not going to name organizations or names, but it's. But no, that's a very important point. Now, just trying to think. Do you have an episode or a movie that was analogous to a real life political or historical event that you enjoyed?
I'm trying to think that,
or something that really resonated with you.
I think that's true a little bit. What comes to mind immediately is. I don't know if this is true or not, but always somebody who obviously was interested in public affairs and public events. It always seemed to me that the Klingons were the Russians and the Romulans were the Chinese in the old Cold War era. Also the shifting loyalties, the way the characters played, and the strategies they used. So I think that was a parallel that was built in the late 1960s. Continued a little bit later on, of course, Federation with the Americans. And the other was just the tensions around race, particularly, which are back again today in a big way, particularly. Yeah, sadly. But that was an ongoing theme that was likely quite far ahead of its time for where the culture was. In the late 1960s, we had you'll remember the name probably better than I would, but the guys that were black on one side and white on the other.
Oh, Beale and
the wrong
Lokai,
side of the
yeah,
face.
from
That was a bit transparent,
your
a
last
bit simplistic, but it showed the themes and how they approached other species. It showed I think not agenda is too strong of a word, but a belief set that was probably leading where public opinion was at that point in time.
Well, it was actually racism in the '60s that inspired that episode, and they couldn't do anything too blatant and stuff. So what they decided to do was okay, let's just point out how stupid racism really is. And the whole root of what caused these two factions that Beale and Lokai represented to fight for generations was that one was white on the right side and black on the left, and the other was the reverse. And just how silly is that? It's and I thought that was a very good way. And I think
that's what occurs to me. The most recent Star Trek film, I think, reflected some of the terrorism that we've faced at times. I think that probably influenced the plot line there as well. Khan, you had mentioned, is one of your favorite movies. Now Khan been through three parts of the Star Trek family. Probably got to an issue that was always been of interest, I think, to people, the creation of the Superman. But I think 1960s, 70s, and then more recently with genetic modifications, that kind of thing, relevant today. So there's another theme that you see, I think, playing through the original cast movies, and now the reboot movie as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, you mentioned about terrorism, because one episode that comes to mind for me was The High Ground back in The Next Generation, where Dr. Crusher was kidnapped by terrorists, and it kind of reminded me a lot of the Northern Irish situation, which kind of hits close to home for me, as my parents are from near the Northern Irish border and stuff. And even Data used that as an example to the car later on, and how terrorism can be an effective tool sometimes in achieving political goals. The morality set aside and stuff. Yeah, it was. That was a great episode for a number of reasons, but I won't get into that. Now, you've talked about, you've expanded on, I guess, good leaders. I'm going to take this into a slightly different direction. Were there any examples of, say, bad or mediocre leadership that maybe viewers should be a little wary of?
There's always some high-ranking Starfleet officer. So this is kind of fun mischief in the series too, where on occasion high-ranking Starfleet officers are noble, but usually they're kind of meddling, or they're plots, or they're incompetent. So how that was a bit mischievous in terms of challenging big bureaucracies, I think, was kind of fun. So the weak leaders, at least in the Starfleet side, usually were high-ranking Starfleet officers, right? They were incompetent or corrupt or always questioning. That's where you usually find them. They had the guy who was an actor on Hill Street Blues, another show I loved in the 1980s. And didn't he have a pipe in his mouth and he's about to go in? Was it the Excelsior, the most modern?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was. Well, he didn't have a pipe. He had a swagger stick, and he was. I remember he was.
All full of himself.
He was filing his nails and
disabled his engines,
cabin,
right?
Yeah.
So there is another example of a bad leader and having a little bit of mischief. People get a little too big of a head.
Yeah, and also I think the guy was very overconfident as well. That I recall. Yeah, so overconfidence certainly would be, and of course you really want to stay away from leadership styles like Gul Dukat and stuff, because that can involve massive homicides and other things.
To the credit, they also, I guess, to create good drama.
Sorry.
Would have strong Klingon or Romulan or other leaders that they'd have to take on. Without a Khan, he was a strong leader and a survivor. So it's kind of fun that they didn't usually face incompetent leaders from other species. The incompetent in Starfleet bureaucracy. Yeah.
So that's interesting. So it was kind of like I guess the enemy within, quite literally. So it's you do see that in some organizations as well, like in private sector and in public sector, even politically as well. You've got some people at the very top who are so disconnected from what's going on and stuff.
Which is a principle of
they may not even realize what they're doing.
Politics and my own sort of worldview. I think it's always very healthy to question the bureaucracy and to make sure you're not making decisions from the ivory towers in Toronto, so to speak, actually be on the ground, as the team would always be on the ground on the planet. And the farther you get away, like Starfleet, the more of a touch you can be.
Okay. Can you think of an example where you had to face a situation maybe in your career that you actually were able to draw on Star Trek or a lesson from Star Trek on, like a specific example?
One time we had a lot of triples
deal with a problem or an issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you have Scotty beam him into space or something?
A little extra food. Yeah, I think probably
all right.
What comes to mind the most is just the styles and the types of leadership and how to be a good leader, how to empower people, have the right people in the right jobs. It was more so just something broad like that, as opposed to a specific incident that reflects an episode aside from the triples.
Okay. Yeah, you can't stand those triples, can you? No. Okay. You've got two daughters.
Are
you playing the show?
So
them,
Maitland
Star Trek,
is just over 2, so it's obviously too young.
Yeah.
For that. Miller's at the right age though. She's 8.5 now. So with the new Star Trek coming out, I'll see if she's interested in seeing that. My guess is it's too old for her still, but maybe she'll find it kind of interesting. Now, her mom, my wife Deb, is not a sci-fi fan, so you get to a certain point in life, you probably work on your mind. If you are looking at potential movies and see the movie descriptions, and if alien planet or whatever is in them, then it's an automatic veto. But Miller did initially. She was hesitant on the Star Wars movie, and she said that she thought those were boys' movies, not girls' movies. In Miller's mind, they're boys' movies, girls' movies, and then boy and girl movies. And then we PBR'd. I watched it and PBR'd it, and had Miller watch a bit of it. She kind of liked it a little bit more. So there is a faint hope that we'll get her into the Star Trek side.
Yeah, that's interesting. You talk about how your daughter thought it was a kind of a boy-girl kind of a movie, because like I've found there were actually very strong female characters, specifically leaders in Star Trek. Captain Janeway comes to mind, and there have been a few other characters, like both regular and recurring as well. So I thought were very good role models.
And in the Star Wars movie,
what are your thoughts on
movie
that?
Characters were women, so she actually, when she saw it, liked it. I think she probably, because boys at school would have the T-shirts on or whatever. And then I think secondly, she's still,
sure.
It's at 8.5, so she probably thought it looked a little scary, right? With the Darth Vader masks and all that kind of stuff. So we will see. But if not,
yeah,
I'm definitely going to be there for the new Star Trek.
Okay, sounds good. And that, I believe, is coming out July 22nd. Any expectations or hopes that you have for that?
It's tough to do 3 good ones, right? And as you said earlier, some are excellent episodes and some aren't. We used to have the even odd reality of the movie, especially the first batch.
Yeah.
But you want to go there to enjoy it, and you don't expect everyone's going to be a blockbuster and a massive hit. And I kind of find the reboots fun because Kirk's more of a badass. Spock's got more attitude. They're younger. They've got a different timeline, so the stories aren't going to be exactly the same. So it's just kind of fun to watch. I'll enjoy it no matter what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the reboots for the most part. I was a little disappointed with Into Darkness, but I did like it because, as you said, Kirk and Spock were much different because the timeline was changed, and they also came into their positions in Starfleet at a much younger age. So in a way, they are different characters.
The writers and the actors, the freedom obviously to do their own version, which I think has been the main reason why it's been so successful. If they had just tried to make a carbon copy of previous work, it would have fizzled out.
No, I agree. Okay, well, that brings us just about to the end. I want to thank my special guest, Tim Hudak, again, for being on here, and hopefully we can have you on as a guest at some other point. I know you're a big sci-fi fan, and we can maybe have you on as a panelist to review a movie or a series,
that'd be a lot of fun.
Science fiction, or some other science fiction work.
The other ones are the Navigator and weapons and stuff like that. We'll do a little bridge scene. I'll take it.
Yeah, we'll put you in the captain seat, of course. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us, everyone. Our next podcast is going to be shortly after July 22nd. We're going to be having a panel discussion on the next movie, Star Trek Into Darkness. And until then, take care and just keep on trekking along. I guess that would be the appropriate way to end this podcast. So, thank you and good luck.